Welcome to our end of week news bulletin. My name is Koploki Bwanga Ferdinand. The KDF weekly bulletin is a show to keep you updated on events undertaken by the Ministry of Defense over the week. In today's bulletin, CS Defense appears before House Committee on Defense. General Robert Kibochi takes part in Chiefs of Defense Forces conference in Italy. Kenya's first commanding officer admitted to Eldoret Regional Hospital. And in sports, CDF's Bora Cup Championship comes to a close at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. Honorable Aden Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, yesterday appeared before the House Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations. The CS elaborated on KDF's deployment in the joint operation with the National Police Service to counter banditry in the 6 counties declared as disturbed and troubled in the country.
During the meeting, the CS maintained that invoking Article 241(3)(b to deploy KDF troops was meant to assist the National Police Service under the instructions of the Commander-in-Chief of Defense Forces. Honorable Duale pointed out that he followed due process by gazetting the deployment of soldiers on 13 February 2023 and wrote to the Speaker of the National Assembly on the same day as required by the Constitution and the KDF Act 2012. The CS was accompanied by senior government officials, among them Mr. Patrick Mariru, the Principal Secretary for Defense and Vice Chief of Defense Forces, Lieutenant General Francis Ogola.
General Robert Kibochi, Chief of Defense Forces, is currently attending the African Chiefs of Defense Forces Conference in Rome, Italy. The conference, sponsored by the United States Africa Command, was officially opened by General Michael Langley and brings together heads of militaries from across the African continent to forge synergy in the fight against continental security threats. During the conference, General Kibochi underscored the need to reinvigorate development and multilateral and regional mechanisms for crisis preparedness, effective response.
The African Chiefs of Defense Forces had very fruitful deliberations touching on various topics such as carnage endowment for international peace, leading indicators of instability, next frontiers of technology, and crisis preparations and response. The conference was themed how our combined resources and requirements affect our reality, reputation, and response.
And now to Mombasa County, Major General Jimson Mutai, Commander Kenya Navy, has received a new damage control unit donated by the British and Danish government's partnership. The damage control unit is set to provide training to Kenya Navy sailors, the Kenya Coast Guard Service and other maritime agencies on the prevention and management of damages on board ships. This is in accordance with the International Convention on Standards of Training, Certification and Watchkeeping for Seafarers and the International Convention for Safety at Sea.
During the ceremony to mark the start of the 12-week training, Colonel Eliud Keter, the Commandant Kenya Naval Training College, emphasized stringent observation of military discipline, personal bearing, timeliness, professionalism, and respect to the authority in adherence to strict standards of the training. He further underscored the necessity of teamwork and cooperation during the training period to make it a success. Captain Toby Robinson, the British Kenya Marines Commandos and Team Commander at United Kingdom's 40 Commando Royal Marines, was grateful for being granted the rare opportunity of training the first batch of Kenya Navy Marines Commandos. The 14-week course is geared towards producing an elite first-of-its-kind Marines Commandos unit, which is lean, competent and specialized in neutralizing threats at sea as well as on land.
Moving on, Defense Cabinet Secretary Honorable Aden Duale met Lady Justice Martha Koome, the Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya at her office in Nairobi. The Defense CS hailed the Honorable Chief Justice for her continued support in appointing judge advocates for court-martials, which has made it possible to prosecute soldiers found to have violated the rules and regulations of the Kenya Defense Forces and laws of Kenya.
Honorable Duale asked the President of the Supreme Court to enable expeditious hearing of cases for prompt delivery of justice. This will in turn pave way for officers who sit on the bench to attend to other duties. He further emphasized the need for joint training of the legal officers from the Kenya Defence Forces to enhance capacity building and exchange programs. Lady Chief Justice Koome appreciated the critical role played by the Kenya Defence Forces in defense and protection of Kenyan borders, saying it has made it possible to live and do business in a secure environment. The Cabinet Secretary was flanked by the Vice Chief of Defence Forces, Lieutenant General Francis Ogola, and the Chief of Legal Services, Brigadier Yvonne Kerubo.
Major General John Omenda, the Commander Kenya Air Force, and a host of other officers from the service are in Dakar, Senegal to participate in the 12th African Air Chiefs Symposium. The long-week symposium hosted by the Senegalese Air Force brings together African air chiefs who are members of the Association of the African Air Forces and features a diverse range of workshops as well as cultural activities.
African Chiefs Symposium is intended to foster effective military relationships between the participating nations and presents a unique opportunity to confront key challenges that threaten a stable and prosperous Africa. This year's theme is focused on African Air Forces tackling the fight against transitional threats. Among the issues under discussion is establishment of the African Air Mobility Wing, intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance, African partnership flight, humanitarian assistance, and disaster response. On the sidelines, the air chiefs also engaged in bilateral talks aimed at strengthening cooperation.
The inaugural Kenya Navy Marine Commandos Basic Training course kicked off this week at the Kenya Naval Training College in Mombasa. The course, facilitated by the United Kingdom's Royal Marines, brings together participants drawn from the Kenya Navy Special Operations Squadrons, which comprises the Diving Unit, Special Boat Unit, and the Marines.
During the ceremony to mark the start of the 12-week training, Colonel Eliud Keter, the Commandant Kenya Naval Training College, emphasized the stringent observation of the military discipline, personal bearing, timeliness, professionalism, and respect to authority in adherence to strict standards of the training. He underscored the necessity of teamwork and cooperation during the training period to make it a success. Captain Tobin Robinson, the British Kenya Marine Commandos and team leader at United Kingdom's 40 Commander Royal Marines, was grateful for being granted the rare opportunity of training the first batch of the Kenya Navy Marines Commandos. The 14-week course is geared towards producing an elite of its kind Marines Commandos unit, which is lean, competent, and specialized in neutralizing threats at sea as well as on land.
Lieutenant Colonel retired Joshua Korigo Barno, the first Kenyan commanding officer to head a military unit after independence in 1963, is currently admitted at Eldoret Regional Hospital. The retired commander was taken ill at his Kapsabet home early this year, and through its Directorate of Medical Services, Kenya Defence Forces organized his immediate transfer to the newly established Eldoret Regional Hospital at Moi Barracks in Eldoret.
Lieutenant Colonel retired Barnol was enlisted into the then King's African Rifles in 1948 as a cadet and commissioned as a junior officer, rising through the ranks to head a military unit. The 98-year-old retired senior officer was the parade commander of the first parade, marking Kenya as a republic a year after we gained independence on 1st June 1963. He became the first commanding officer of the Nanyuki-based 1st Battalion of the Kenya Rifles during the first Jamhuri Day on 12 December 1964. The former commanding officer is in stable condition and is recuperating at Eldoret Regional Hospital.
The Defence Saving and Credit Cooperative Society, also known as DISACO, held its 4th annual delegates meeting in Nairobi. During the event, the Managing Director DISACO presented an annual report on the performance of the cooperative society. Mr. Patrick Mariru, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Defence, who graced the event, applauded the Kenya Defence Forces for its fast growth of the SACO. Have a look.
The two-day training event brought together delegates from various units to equip them with the financial management knowledge and address members' concerns from the various regions they represent. Defence Savings and Credit Society was established on 10th April 2019 to uplift the members' social and economic well-being.
The leadership thought it wise to form our own SACCO which will be fully under our control. And this is how the SACCO came to being.
It was mooted by KDF leadership after realizing the gap experienced by service personnel in inculcating the culture of saving and access to affordable and reliable credit facilities.
This SACCO is a key institution that serves the financial interests of any service personnel while they concentrate on defending our country.
We reach out to those that have not joined. And because of many reasons, this is the best that you can have, because you can walk into the office anytime you want.
Honorable Aden Duale, Defense Cabinet Secretary, led senior ministry officials in signing the 2022-2023 performance contracts between the Ministry of Defense and semi-autonomous government agencies affiliated with it. Performance contracts are key accountability frameworks used by government ministries, departments and agencies to improve their efficiency and effectiveness in the delivery of service to the public.
The CS signed the contract between the Ministry of Defense and the chairpersons of the Kenya Space Agency and the Kenya Ordnance Factory Corporation. Honorable Aden Duale, in his remarks, implored the semi-autonomous government agencies to continue working with dedication and commitment. Other top ministry officials who signed the performance contracts were Mr. Patrick Mariro, Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Defense, and Lieutenant General Francis Ogola, Vice Chief of Defense Forces.
Moving on to other stories, Brigadier Idi Mohammed, the Managing Director of the Defense Forces Old Comrades Association, popularly known as DFOCA, went on a familiarization tour to Embu County to appraise himself with the progress of the branch. During his visit, the Managing Director held a meeting with DFOCA members and assessed a series of development projects being undertaken by the retired KDF service personnel across Embu County.
Brigadier Idi also paid a courtesy call on Mr. Stephen Kihara, the Embu County Commissioner, where he thanked him for his continuous support to DFOCA members and urged him to take advantage of the members' resourcefulness, especially on security matters. The County Commissioner commended the retired comrades on discipline and how they interacted with the civilians. The Managing Director also held a meeting with top officials of the Embu County government, led by Honorable Justus Mugo, the Deputy Governor, and Honorable Kathuri Emilio, the County Executive Commissioner in charge of administration. In the meeting with the officials, Brigadier Idi requested the Embu County government to maintain the spirit of goodwill in support of the Embu World War II ex-servicemen.
In our sports arena, Nairobi team has emerged best overall in the Chief of Defense Forces Bora Cup Netball Championship that was held at the Ulinzi Sports Complex, Langata. Moi Air Base came in second, followed by Engineers Brigade. The 5-day championship brought together female service personnel from different brigades, formations and bases in a bid to enhance cohesion and promote spirit decor within the services. This year's CDF Bora Cup Challenge is the first since the outbreak of COVID-19 that had necessitated the suspension of all sporting activities. The tournament also saw 8th Mechanized Infantry Brigade emerge as the most improved team, with Senior Private Irene Adhiambo from the same brigade standing out as the most valuable player.
Colonel Lawrence Toyai, who is the chairperson of the Kenya Defence Forces Netball Association, emphasized the maintenance of high standards of discipline among the players. He noted that the best players will join Ulinzi netball team, where they will get the opportunity to represent Kenya Defence Forces in the ongoing national league and tournaments.
Thank you for watching. We look forward to your feedback via our official social media handles and your viewership next Friday for the KDF Weekly Bulletin. My name is Koplo Kibwanga Ferdinand. Goodbye.